Hiya, teacher friends! Are you interested in teaching on iTalki? Well, if so, you came to the right place. I have taught 2,000 lessons on iTalki in the last year. And today I want to share 50 lessons with you that I have learned from iTalki. They are not in any particular order of importance, but they are all worth considering. So number one, keep your price low for the first month. I know it's tough because you just want to make money, it's a job, I totally get it. But in order to build a good clientele, you'll have to attract students, right? And to do that, you'll have to keep your price low. So I think right now, the lowest you could have is about $10, which is fairly reasonable, depending on what country you're from as well. So make sure that you keep your price low, and then as you get more students, you could start raising your price. I'll explain more about that after. Number two, give homework. This is one of the best ways that you could keep students. What is coming next? I can't believe this didn't come to me until after 400 lessons. But of course, giving homework is one of the best things you could do to keep your students motivated and to keep them coming back. What I do is I create a Google Doc with my students as well, so that we could correct our homework in this Google Doc each time. So literally the first lesson, the trial lesson, at the end of the lesson, I explain to them, I give homework every time. It is written homework, 150 words, paragraph form, formal, informal, your choice, and I give them the task. I make sure that the task is associated with a piece of information that they gave to me during the class, so that they know that I'm listening to them. So for example, if they mention that they're interested in boxing, then for homework, write a mock interview with a boxer or your favorite boxer or something like that. All right, number three, correct homework. Correct homework, yeah? And also how you correct homework is important too. There are different types of feedback, and you could give them explicit feedback where you actually explain what they did wrong. However, it's really important to also go through implicit feedback as well. That's basically where you highlight a phrase or a word, an issue, a mistake, and you say, what is the problem here? Yeah, it's really good if you model what is correct before you do that, right? So for example, if it's the preposition at, you could say, I am at school, I am at work, and then find another phrase that uses at. And if they put in or on, say, what should this be? Highlight it, and they will see it should be at, yeah? And even if they guess, usually the guess is correct. But this is a good way to verify understanding. Number four is to state age limit in bio. For me, I don't like teaching kids. At the beginning, I taught a lot of kids. My branding was a little bit different, and basically beggars can't be choosers. So when you first get started on iTalki, especially if you're a new student, a new teacher, or not a teacher by trade, I'd be open to this. Teach children. Try it out for a couple lessons, just a couple trial lessons. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's what happened to me as well. However, some parents are in the habit of just booking a lesson and just kind of propping their kid there, especially if they don't know a lot of English. They will kind of just say, teach him grammar or teach him this or that, like no preparation at all, right? So state if you teach kids or not, and also state your policies on parental guidance as well. Some teachers don't like it when parents are very active and very kind of too involved, like in the middle of the screen the whole time, but it depends on the type of teacher you are. Number five, use Zoom. Yeah, use Zoom. Not only Zoom, I use Skype primarily. However, Zoom is a backup. Yeah, so just make sure you have a backup. Google Hangouts, Google Meet. It'll be really useful. Number six, make a curriculum. For me, I made a really rough breakdown of a curriculum in a Google Doc. I send it to my students every class. I have one for A1, one for A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. It basically just has a few topics of what I go through, a few links for vocabulary, and that's it. all you're doing is showing your students that you're committed, that you have thought about what you're going to do. Even if it's not, glamorous and completely polished, it's a good thing to make sure that you have a plan and you could show it to your students. But don't put too much effort into this. I think I overdid this when I started. Just keep a rough draft. That way you could be flexible and you could adapt it for different students. For example, if a student wants to talk about technology, then you won't talk about the environment or something like that. So the curriculum that you make could change depending on the student. Number 7, have a kick-ass trial lesson. Honestly, have a great trial lesson. It's only 30 minutes. You could literally, like for me, I start off with a few activities. And then after that, I have a short lesson to give them an idea of a themed lesson with me. And then at the end, we just have conversation and we make a plan. And I explain the plan to them at the beginning of the lesson. It took me probably 1,500 lessons to master. I'm still mastering my trial lesson, but damn, a good trial lesson keeps them coming back. And I know that as a student, when I go into a trial lesson and it's just like unstructured conversation, I don't book another lesson. All right, greet students before class. Just say a quick hello. Again, as a student, I have felt way more respected by students who greet me, by teachers who greet me beforehand. It's a great way to open up the line of communication. Number 9, make packages, package deals. Yeah, it's the marketing trick. Part of iTalki is marketing. Make sure right from the very get-go, right from the start, put on package deals. I hadn't done this until I don't know how many lessons in. Do it from the start. That way they could see 10% off, 15% off, and they'll buy more lessons. Okay, number 10, reward long-term students. For me, I actually give my long-term students a discount. Depends on their country, the amount of lessons they've taken, and different factors like that. But I always give them a discount for around the same price. Obviously, you can't do this for everyone. So for me, it's after 10 or 15 classes, I'll give a discount to my student. But yeah, I think that's a great way to show your loyalty to your students and to reward their loyalty to you. Number 11, learn on iTalki. This should be one of the most important ones. Learn on iTalki. Take a class. And I think just for ESL teachers in general, I don't understand how you teach a language without learning a language. I mean, I think it's a great thing. I don't think everyone has the time to do it. Not everybody has the time to do it full speed ahead. Just download Duolingo, try out a few modules. And if you are serious enough about learning a language, try it out on iTalki. That way you'll be able to see what it's like with other teachers as well. And you could get some good ideas too. Oh, but by the way, a lot of my students have been English teachers as well. Number 12, give silent time, thinking time during class. This is really important to make sure that the students have a time where they could kind of just reflect. So for me, from the very first class, we talk about multitasking. I give them 2 minutes to brainstorm two pros and 2 cons of multitasking. That's really important because if it's just noise back and forth the whole time, it's important for the thinking process and the learning process to be able to collect your thoughts and to plan. Of course, the real world doesn't work like this, but sometimes it does. Before I call somebody, sometimes I think about what I'm going to say, right? So this is an important aspect as well. Silence is power sometimes, but don't overdo it. Number 13, themed lessons. Have lessons based on theme. It's just so much better to keep things really organized. Some students just want chaotic conversation, and that's fine as well. But at least start with a theme. Tell them what you're going to talk about. It makes you look more professional and organized. Just by saying, we're going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about animals. We're going to talk about food, right? Yeah, just have a theme. And that's a lot easier if you have a curriculum, as I said before. Number 14, no interruptions. Zero in the first lesson. All right. I can't stress this enough in terms of the effective filter of the student with their ability to acquire the language. You interrupting the student while they're talking the first time you speak to them does nothing to help them. Zero. Because you don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are. So for all you know, it might be a fluke that they made that mistake. Also, if you just correct what they say without any explanation, then they're not going to understand why that's a mistake. If you give them an explanation, you're taking away serious time, valuable time in your first 30-minute lesson. Like it's only 30 minutes to get to know them. Plus, you don't even know what their goals are yet. So you don't even know if they want to work on grammar or not. It could shatter their confidence. Let them introduce themselves. Just be quiet for a few minutes. And then after that, for me, I actually put the corrections in the chat. I type them out. And I've had a lot of students tell me that they appreciate this. I've had some students tell me that they want me to be hardline and they want me to correct their grammar, and I do that as well. But don't assume. I think it's also a good thing for you to recognize patterns. So instead of interrupting your student while they're talking and correcting the mistake, instead just let them finish, write down a few notes, and if you see that prepositions are patterns, if you see that verb tense is a pattern, that they struggle with this a lot, then you correct them, you give them an explanation, but no interruptions in the first class. Okay, number 15, that's to use the chat to correct, as I said. Number 16, give links to games. Yeah, make learning fun. For me, I send my students Speechling and Baba Doom. These are different like vocabulary. Well, Speechling is for pronunciation and listening and spelling. Baba Doom is for vocabulary. These are fun. They are games, yeah? And every student needs this as well. Even students who are like very high level. To have a way to make English fun is really important. So if you have any suggestions, any links, feel free to throw them in the box below for other ESL teachers, but also keep them handy and send them to your students. Number 17, plan your lesson with activities. Have a few activities there. It could even be just word association games. Give them a list of 10 words and they have to put them into categories. Think about abstract categories for them. It could be, getting 10 random words and making a story with it, right? Like line by line, you say a sentence, they say a sentence, right? Any activity, just make sure you have activities, even if it's a conversational lesson. Number 18, use pictures. This kind of goes with the activities. I use pictures. My first activity, first lesson, I use pictures. It's really good for the meaning focused aspect of language, because again, the form focus, the grammar, the vocabulary, that's really important, but it's also the way we acquire language is very meaning focused. So it's important for them to just be able to look at something and explain the meaning of this thing, right? And I'll talk more about task-based learning in future videos. Number 19. Implicit correction. I talked about that. I spoke about that before. Sorry. Implicit correction. Don't always tell them what the problem was, but try to test them. Try to get them to explain to you why something was a problem and to find where the problem is. Yeah. Number 20. Increase your price according to demand. So once you start getting a lot of classes, increase it. That doesn't mean week 2. I told you the first month you're going to be roughing it, yeah? But after that, slowly increase your price. For me, I didn't tell my students before I increased my price. Some people suggest that, but for me, I didn't think that it was necessary. And a lot of my students stayed with me, and some of them who had different financial situations spoke to me about it. So increase your price when you get that demand. I nearly burnt out last January, so it's really important to increase that price. Number 21, make a 6 month plan. So make a plan for your first 6 months on iTalki, where you want to be, how many students, well, the amount of students doesn't really matter, but the amount of classes, right? And how you want to grow as a teacher as well. There's a lot of potential for growth. All right. Number 22, talk about future plans. Yeah, so just make a plan with your students, and this could literally just be sending them your syllabus. Or if it's IELTS prep, test preparation, business English, interview, like tell them in 2 lessons, I hope that we could be here. In 3 lessons, I hope that we could be here. Don't make them any promises you can't use. Your wording is very important. Sorry, don't make any promises you can't keep. Your wording is very important, but try to give them ideas of goals for the future. Number 23, touch up your video. I've re-recorded my video 3 or 4 times. It's not flashy. It's kind of like my YouTube videos, just kind of one shot. But yeah, touching up your video is a really important thing to make sure that you're aligning yourself with your image, right? Like at first I was really like all over the place and high energy, and I had all these like pictures. You'll see in my early YouTube videos of things behind me. And that's just not my style now. Now I've found that I like I've grown on iTalki. I found out what kind of teacher I am, and I still am finding that out, right? So I really suggest that you re-record your video and touch up your bio, number 24 as well, to make sure that you are aligning yourself with your target market. Number 25 is find your niche. You know, some teachers, like for me as a professional teacher, I'm able to cater to all sorts of students, right? Like students who just want to improve their English for professional reasons, for social reasons, educational value, or even for IELTS prep. And IELTS prep is a huge source of the students that I get. It's not easy for all of us, but definitely try to find your niche, whatever that may be. It might be business English or interview preparation. Just find one and really focus on it and make that your thing so students know where to go. Like what defines you as a teacher. All right. Number 26, have a good background. As I said, I don't have all of these pictures behind me anymore. Well, I do have a cat. But definitely having just a clean background is really important. I've gone into classes where teachers have like garbage bags in the background. You know, even classes where teachers are standing up with their phone, like they're using their phone for their class and they're standing up, and you know their phone's shaking and stuff like that. I mean, not everyone could have a computer or a tablet. That's completely fine, but try to be in a stationary place with a decent enough background, yeah, I think that's the least we could ask for as students. 27, yeah, find patterns in grammar. I've already touched up on that. Write these things down. You will get to know your students better and better as time goes on, so you don't have to like have you couldn't in your Google Doc that you make with your students. If you follow my technique, you could just have a grammar category where you hear issues, and then every class you could go back to that and you could add to it, and then you'll start to see, oh, the student struggles with the present perfect conjugation, right? So these are the things that you could do, but they're not absolutely necessary. 28, pronunciation is not everything. Yeah, again, like if you hear patterns, go for it, but really, even if it's almost like incomprehensible what they're saying, focus on the patterns and then go to the exceptions, because the exceptions, they're not going to, except for very high frequency words. Some students focus with rough or through or thorough, right? Or although. Those kind of words with the weird consonant clusters, those could be tricky, right? So you could focus on those exceptions. But aside from that, focus on the sounds that they actually struggle with a lot. It could be the R sound for Spanish speakers. It could be the TH sound for some speakers. It could even be the G sound as well. Yeah, so focus on the sounds that are common and constant, and then move on to the specifics. But honestly, pronunciation is not everything. It will come naturally. A lot of your students come from countries where they did grammar. Basically, that's it in class, right? So this is their first time being exposed to native speakers. So be patient with it. Pronunciation is a really like soft spot. I'm not trying to get you to coddle your students, but just for the first class, I think that you should like really work slowly, pick your battles. Don't pick every battle, and then try to just make a plan for the future instead of trying to diagnose and cure everything in the first class. Um, all right, good stuff. Number 29 is accept your limitations. This is one of the trickiest ones. I mean, I have some students where I just know they have dyslexia, or like I'm not trained to deal with that. A lot of teachers, even with all my education, we're not trained to specifically deal with um, particular learning difficulties, right? But we could try, right? So make sure you try, make sure you're patient, and try to do some research on these things, but accept your limitations and try to point them in the direction of the resources that can help them. Number 30, be honest about your classes. Yeah, this goes with making your future plan. Don't tell them anything that is not possible, but be honest with them as well in terms of what they could do, right? Because a lot of students treat teachers like a robot, like they could just click IELTS band 7 and this teacher will bring them there. I'm not your dad. I'm not here to hold your hand. You have to do a lot of the work on your own in your own time, right? So make sure that you tell your students that a lot of the responsibility is theirs to have, and tell them what they have to do, how much they have to work. That way you are their teacher even outside of class. 90% of their progress happens outside of the classroom. 31, know your worth. This goes with raising your price. Just know your worth. And I gotta tell you, when you're dealing with like the students, when you're charging less money, a lot of these students are higher demand, okay, and they expect a lot more bang for their buck. So it will be tricky, and you'll have some difficult students. But if you have some difficult students, and honestly they're not being very realistic or very fair, then you could tell them that there are other teachers on iTalki, or you could tell them what the plan is. You could tell them kind of take it or leave it, or we could work on this together. But know your worth and don't be pushed around. You do deserve respect as a teacher as well. Number 32, yeah, be civil with difficult people. I've been civil with all my students. I've had some students that I've had difficulties with, and I'll talk about that in future lessons. But overall, just be civil and be professional. Number 33, learn varieties of English. Oh my gosh, like if I could just imagine, if you're American and you've never been exposed to British English, the thing like at the weekend, you've probably never heard at the weekend before. This is acceptable English. This is where English comes from, right? So you should learn different varieties of English. You should really look at some videos online, even from different parts of Asia and Africa and all around the world, the different varieties of English. Because when you say that is incorrect, that's a big statement. Yeah. And even for me, I'm still learning the things. Like a student might say an expression, and if I don't know, I say I don't know. Like I actually don't know if that is correct or not. Because it could be an idiom in Britain, There are many words, many their use of modal verbs, the use of the present perfect and the past simple. These things like do fluctuate depending on where you live, right? Even between England and Ireland, I saw so many differences. So be careful as to what you call correct or incorrect, and definitely try to do as much research as possible in that domain. Fantastic. Yeah, exactly. 35, don't make an explanation unless you're sure. Number 36, admit when you're wrong or admit when you're not sure. Number 37, consider students' native language. Yeah, this is one of the important things about learning languages is that you understand why students make mistakes, and to be able to explain to a student why they're making that mistake and the transfer, whether positive or negative transfer from their native language, is a moment of magic. When you know they make that mistake for that reason, right? Like when French people pronounce the plural, they usually omit the s, the pronunciation of the s, unless if it precedes a vowel in the next word. So sometimes this happens in English as well, right? I have two dog, right? And we know French speakers know this, right? So and pronunciation could be like this as well. So your awareness of the native speaker's language could really help you in the long run. Number 38, model and demonstrate for your student. So before you start an activity, demonstrate it, model it for them, and then let them try. And sometimes you need to model 50% and then they do 100%, right? But make sure you're modeling. Number 39, if it's in your power, take a TESL course, even a cheap one online. I know that not all of us could afford this, but it's definitely worth your money in the long run, and you could become a professional teacher on iTalki. Number 40, find interesting topics that push your students, that challenge your students. 41, beware of scammers. Yeah, I hate to say it, but there are some people on iTalki who want like your credit card information and stuff. I've never gone into a class and had somebody ask me for that, but there are people who message you, so just beware of that. But I think they've done really good at weeding these people out. 42, establish a late policy. Mine, I started with, like 3 strikes and you're out or something like that. Now it's zero tolerance. I dispute most of the time when people don't show up. I dispute it unless if that student has taken 50 or 60 lessons. So definitely establish a late policy early and stick by it. Number 43, make breaks in your schedule. I mean, I see a lot of teachers complain about like how they want that 5-minute break and stuff, but I mean, it's an hour. However, if you're working back to back to back, that is hard. Like I've worked 6 hours in a row. It's not easy. I know some people are in positions where they can't afford to take breaks. Like they need that money. They can't just put 30-minute breaks between their classes. In that case, I understand to take your 5-minute break. But I've been in classes where I've just seen the teacher looking at the time, like waiting for that 5 minutes before the end of class. And that's just so discouraging as a student. So honestly, like if you have to take a class, try to cut it to 2 or 3 minutes. If you have a medical condition, again, like that's another exception. But I'm just saying for the majority of teachers, like don't try to, I wouldn't try to like cut it too closely with the minute mark if you want to build rapport with your students. 44, establish rules such as no eating. Like I've had students try to eat in class and I tell them every time not to. And if I don't tell them not to, then I definitely don't allow them to book again. 45 is to market yourself. Yeah, market yourself well, get on Instagram, get on YouTube, make some videos, and that could bring in some more students. Number 46, confirm the goals of the student. Make sure you know and you understand what their goals are. 47, remind the students of their goals. A lot of students become lazy. They think I'm paying for this class. It's going to magically improve my English. Remind them of those goals. Yeah. Remind them if they want to move to Canada. Remind them, this is what's going to get you that band 7 on IELTS, right? You'll be thanking yourself when you're living in Canada, right? And this is, of course, we have to be like really sensitive when we make these kind of statements. So make sure you build rapport with the students first. But if it's after 20 or 30 lessons with a student, then tell them like this will help you be the best student you could be. This will help you be the best worker that you could be, right? Number 48, consider the job and the life of the student. A lot of these students, despite the fact that they're paying you, are actually a lot more qualified in their domain than we are in our domain, right? Like I've taught people with PhDs and never mind PhDs, just life experience, so I cannot think of them as any lower than me just because they're paying me to learn English. Recognize that you could learn things from them. You could learn things in their language as well. Yeah. Perfect. Number 49, this goes without saying, don't miss class. Number 50, have fun and grow. As cliche as it sounds, this is a great opportunity. I suggest it to any student to grow on iTalki. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. That was one of the longest videos yet. If you have any questions, please just leave them in the bio underneath. Check out my iTalki profile for any tips on how to actually improve your profile. And I'll see you next time. Keep smiling.